Yep, we now have full interactivity.
Excellent.
Plus, I've added one or two of my own ideas to her. Spice things up a little.
Like what?
I'll tell you later, but you're gonna love it.
You hear that, Lex? We're gonna put on a good show. I'm gonna make you a star.
If you last that long.
I'll last. I'll show you all.
Welcome to Series 4, Episode 26 of Conversational Eagle Mountain, a podcast about the tribe. I'm your host, Lance, and joining the podcast panel today is Liz.
Hello.
Sabine.
Hi.
And Tamsin.
Hello.
We have episode notes done by Matt and myself. So Series 4, Episode 26. The screenplay was done by Anthony Reed. It was directed by Costa Boats. And the episode synopsis were read out by Tamsin.
Chloe deals with the aftermath of her confession to Ved. Trudy pushes Pride towards SALENE. And Lex faces the arena as Rand's gladiator.
Gotta do better than that, man. Sharpen those reflexes, move faster, or you're really gonna get hurt.
You trying to destroy me or something?
I'm just your personal trainer. If it had been left up to me, I'd have deleted you long ago.
However, Ved's new additions to the program means that if Lex dies in the game, then he dies in real life. So yeah, panel, what's your thoughts about Java training Lex and Ved's sneaky new addition to things?
I really liked Java's hairstyle. When it was down, I liked it as opposed to the ponytail. Not that there's anything wrong with the ponytail, but I just thought it was nice to see a bit of difference for Java because she's not going to get much, is she, in terms of costuming or makeup. It's really going to be the same sort of look all the way through, but I think some of her braids changed later on, different colour. So it was nice to see her. It was a nice look.
As for her being Lex's personal trainer, I think that was quite well thought of, because personal trainers are usually depicted as mean as hell, so Java versus Lex, perfect fit.
I feel like they missed an opportunity, though, not having it be Siva. I just think that would have created more of an awkward situation with them trying to hide their relationship and her also having to drill him.
Oh, I would have loved to see that. Eva having to train him because she wants to keep him safe, but she also can't be effusive in her care for him. You know, she has to be, because you never know, you know, their training is being watched at any moment by Ram and the others, but at the same time, like being determined to be tough on him, because if he doesn't actually learn to do this, she doesn't know what Ram has in store for him. She just knows it's not going to be good. That would have been awesome. But I won't lie, I actually like Java training him. I like how professional Java is capable of being.
Yeah.
You know, she doesn't make this personal at all, which is interesting considering the relationship here. She really is focused on just training him and getting him up to par for whatever Ram has planned. And I like the insight how much Java enjoys this part of being a techno. She loves this. She's actually really good at it. She enjoys this aspect. She's fit. She's, she's good at combat. She enjoys it. It's something she excels at. And it's a place where she's graceful and in her own element. It's something that's just hers. You know, it's probably the only thing Ram praises her on, are her combat skills. And she seems really in her own skin when she's in there training Lex. And even like, dude, you're going to have to do better than that. You know what I mean? Like, she seems genuine and like, I want you to perform at your peak because it means I did my job.
And it's such a stark contrast to Lex's previous experience with being trained for something, like if I think about the flashback episode
Yeah.
with him and Ryan in the boot camp, it's such a big contrast for me to see how they handled that back then with him and how Java's doing this, because she's actually achieving something.
Yeah.
As for the tech, though, that I've had added, it's just one of the least plausible things. Like, unless you mean that if he dies in the game, then he'll be zapped with one of their silly zappers and deleted. Sure, but it's just not technically possible to have him have the same wounds and the same level of pain as in the places that they experience in the game, unless someone's physically hurting him at the same time.
They clearly stole this from the Matrix. In the Matrix, because you are linked in through the brain stem, if you die in the Matrix, you die in real life. And it's explained that the body cannot survive with the mind. If your mind believes if you've perished, it doesn't matter. You won't show the same wounds. It's just that
No.
your brain will be like, oh, we're dead. And that's that. So I think that's what they were going for. Like they clearly stole that idea from the Matrix. If you die in here, your body will not be able to tell the difference and it will perish as well. Your brain will shut down.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it makes sense. I'm saying that's where they got it from.
Oh yeah, it's just I struggle with how much this wasn't technologically possible.
Going back to the training though, with Java's training, it has made me wonder whether Java, Siva, and Ebony, who all have a very similar fight style, did some sort of after school fighting for, black belts, green belts, that sort of thing. But again, we don't know because they never fleshed it out. But it'd be one of those things that was quite interesting.
Yeah, I always imagined it was like probably their dad was teaching martial arts of some kind.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And Java being the one who wants, craves the attention the most from parents, or at least, being seen more than her sisters, would obviously have become better because he trained more. Because that's, like, I could see something like that tying in with how these girls know this.
Yeah.
This is one of those areas where Ebony's backstory becomes all muddled because, like, from my perspective, from what I believed was that Ebony didn't have a lot from the flashbacks, which is why she hated Trudy so much, because she was this posh girl who had everything. But when you add in the sisters now and that I had a lot of things going on in the background, it kind of makes it weird for me. It's very conflicting.
I guess though their dad could have been, like Sabine said, that could have been his job. He could have had a dojo or something like that, and he could have trained his kids as part. So they're not paying to do it; they're doing it for free with their dad.
But from the other conversations with Java and Siva, it's like there's a lot of things that's been happening. They had, I mean, she said, like,
yeah, that's true.
Ebony would always get the medal, and all this. They were involved apparently in a lot of things, different things. But that wasn't Ebony's backstory. That's not what I got from it anyway.
It's it's like retro. What do they call it? Retconning?
Yeah.
And it's a shame because, like you said, like it will be really interesting to find out how the sisters learnt this from where.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
and also, if they had a belt system or been medalled, you could actually empirically say Java's a better fighter than Ebony. Siva is still on a certain colour of belt. Like, I used to do Taekwondo when I was younger, and you've got, like, a belt colour system that you can go up to. And maybe Siva's on, like, a green belt, but the other two are much higher up. And you could have empirically said Java's a better fighter than her sister, and maybe she's even a little bit better than Ebony, but what she lacks that Ebony has is that Ebony is tenacious. She won't give up, will she? She won't go down.
I don't know, for me she always feels like she was that child that tried so hard to get the attention of the parent, yet her little sister always got all the praise because she was the pretty little angel.
Yeah. Well, she's your typical oldest child, I think, you know. And, I mean, Siva is your typical middle child. She's forgotten about a lot of the time, and she's just expected to go along with whichever sister's telling her at the time.
Yeah.
I think all the sisters got a raw deal from their parents because it's clear that if you look at it from Ebony's perspective, she didn't get much approval from her parents. No, nothing she did was ever good enough. And it's left her with a complex of having to be the best. If that was the only way her parents ever showed her approval or praise, that they clearly failed her. And it's kind of the way Martin could never see things from Bray's point of view. Like Martin, the way he spoke
Mm-hmm.
about Bray wasn't accurate to the flashback where we get to see Bray. And it's like, yeah, he clearly wasn't all of those things. It's just what it felt like to you. Martin felt put upon, and both brothers had a completely different perspective on what they thought of the other. I think it's the same thing happening with these girls. I think at the end of the day, they all got screwed over by their parents who didn't show them genuine love in any
Mm.
form whatsoever, and it just made all three of them having to fight it out constantly and see each other as the competition for any kind of affection from their parents because their parents didn't give them any actual affection.
Mm. And it may be even why Siva seems to be a bit more grounded than Java and Ebony, because while she may not have got much affection from her parents, she does get at different times affection from Java and Ebony,
Mm.
which
Mm-hmm.
they don't give to each other. So
She was Switzerland.
yeah, but in being Switzerland, by being neutral, by being somebody who is in the middle, that has made her a bit more grounded when it comes to the affections of people. Yeah, we've seen her threaten Lex and we've seen things like that, but she's not on the same scale as Java and Ebony, and they kind of look over the top of her head at each other constantly.
Yeah, let's not forget, even with how those sisters are, it was she always had to pick a side, but that also meant she always had someone to be on a side with.
Yeah.
Whereas Java, if Siva sided with Ebony, Java was on her own. If Siva sided with Java, Ebony was on her own.
But they never side together, so she's never on her own.
Exactly, they don't side. Ebony and Siva don't. Ebony and Java don't side together against Siva.
Yeah.
So it's in some ways that made it probably makes it easier for her because she has someone to give her some affection. She always has a sister, whereas the other two, plenty of times, they had no one.
And she seems to find showing affection and giving affection, receiving it, easier than the other two.
Yeah, because she probably got affection from her sisters.
Yeah, exactly. And vulnerability. She's often vulnerable a lot of the time. And they can never be vulnerable, like you say, because, yeah.
I think Siva learned early on that there was no winning. She wasn't able to compete with her sisters to win their parents' affection. And so she just figured out early on she wasn't the competitive one, which made her a safe harbor for either of the sisters at any given time to, like if they needed somebody they can complain to, Siva would understand because Siva likely didn't get any, if any, affection from her parents in the competition venue. I'm sure she got some in the same way that Ram gives her affection, where she's automatically considered the sweet one, the good one, that sort of thing. That likely might have been where Siva landed. But it wasn't, she probably didn't get like high praise in the way that Ebony or Java could, because Siva she didn't match up. She didn't measure up to either of her sisters. And she probably was like, it's often when kids are growing up, especially clustered together, the first child takes on a role. And then the child who comes after them is like, oh, I can't compete with that. So I have to find my own niche, and so on and so forth with the kids as they come along. And I have a feeling that maybe Siva was like, okay, I can't do Java's niche. And then when Ebony came along, she had to try and find her niche. Problem is, her and Java's niches butted heads really hard, and they're clustered so close together. The dynamics must have been just really, really messy for them, and they all got screwed. They all got screwed.
SALENE, we do find things to talk about, even in an episode like this.
It's not really about the episode.
I was going to say.
I think.
It's just a shame we didn't get any of this properly portrayed in the show because it's interesting. It's so
Yeah.
interesting 'cause that's why we're talking about it. But the episode itself, ugh. A shame.
Well, the more we talk about Ebony, Java, and Siva, the more it feels like such a wasted opportunity.
Hmm.
And I think, Liz, you once said there was gold here, and they didn't dig deep enough for it. They didn't even scratch the surface.
When we're thinking about things like that, it makes me wish they would have had a pre-tribe spin-off where we could have just seen more about the family lives of these characters.
Mm. Or at least some flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know why they stopped doing flashbacks because it's relevant.
Mm-hmm.
One last thing to say about the scene. Tamsin had mentioned it. I like this void of a room that they're in. I like
Yeah.
how formless it is. You can't see the walls, you can't see the corners, you don't know how big the space is. It's just encompassing darkness. I think it's a really great transitional space between reality and the virtual reality that they're playing in, and it really puts Lex in an incredibly vulnerable position. He's in this chair, he's seated the whole time, and he is surrounded by, well, enemies. And he has one ally, and that's Siva, but they have to hide that allyship. So I think it's nice visual language in this
Yeah.
void of a room, and that's where Lex is. He's almost in purgatory, not knowing if he's going up or going down. He's pretty sure he's going down. Yeah, it's like I thought that was a nice stylistic choice.
And it's lit really well, where you've got the contrast between the black, which surrounds them, and then there's this red light.
Mm.
So you're right, it does feel, when you said purgatory, it feels hellish. And like you say, it's Siva and Ved and Ram and Java and Ebony, and they're all in there, and it's very claustrophobic, and you do feel it from Lex's position. He's doing a very good job of covering his fear, but you can tell that he is afraid. He doesn't know what they're going to do to him next. And it's equally tense because there's lots of looks that are shared between characters. So we have the look when Ram notices Siva, and when she says shush, he notices that.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ebony, when Ram says, if you die, you die in the game, she looks at Ram like, oh God, he's completely insane. I always thought he was mad, but this is another level, and you can kind of see it across her face. She smiles, but her eyes are like, oh my God.
She looked like she wasn't sure if she was aroused or scared.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I felt scared, actually.
It was a
Because I
weird
think
look.
she
I don't
still
know.
doesn't know how to. I think she doesn't know how to deal with Ram. She's trying to find ways, isn't she? But every time she thinks she's on top of it,
Yeah, she's partly impressed and partly horrified.
yeah, it was horrified. Yeah,
But honestly, you'd think Ebony would have some experience with that. The way she describes, how Zoot was to her,
that's interesting.
I think she felt similar. Like she was both impressed by Zoot and horrified by his actions. And I think that might be part of what's driving Ebony to stay on Ram's good side.
Mm.
And this is making sure she isn't in a similar position as she was in with Zoot, who, tormented her for the fun of it.
And I mean, it's even worse because when she was with Zoot, she didn't. There wasn't a coterie of people that didn't like her. It was Zoot was the one that was kind of punishing her, but Java is there, Siva is there.
Mm-hmm.
The minute she falls, they will make sure she can't get back up again. So it's even more tenuous.
Mm-hmm.
Because if Ram changes his mind about her,
Yeah, Java will be right there whispering in his ear.
yeah, exactly.
You need your friends. Your real friends. Who care about you.
I don't want anybody to know. Not yet, I couldn't.
Okay, then I won't tell anyone. I promise. Not until you're ready.
After realizing that she isn't actually pregnant, Chloe regrets her decision even more. Despite her misgivings, Dee does go to Ved and tells him of the mistake. So yeah, panel, how did you react to the fallout from Chloe's breakup with Ved and her later realization?
I completely forgot about this storyline, that they went there with this. I wanted to say that when somebody shows you their true colours, believe them.
Mm-hmm.
She's seen him in his true colours. This is who he actually is. And I know that she's a teenage girl, and I know that she thinks she's in love with him, but she isn't. You can't love somebody like Ved. He's unlovable. And Trudy's done the right thing by telling her to tell him. Now, whether Trudy knew that that was going to turn him off and he was going to scarf her, or whether she thought, maybe there is more to Ved than meets the eye, but also he needed to know. This is a good opportunity, although Chloe doesn't know it, to get rid of Ved. Let's be honest. And even his response when Dee, laughing at Chloe, I can't understand. Just like with Pride, I know that they're a very attractive young couple and they fit together really well, but I can't understand why anyone would ship them.
Yeah, I was like, you guys, you like Chloe, right? I could have sworn that this was all because you like Chloe. Please explain to me, if you like her, why you enjoy watching her be with someone who treats her this way.
Yeah.
I'll never understand that, I'll never understand if you love a character, you think they're the greatest, why would you ship them with someone who treats their partners like garbage and think, oh my gosh, it's so romantic. How old are you? And I get it when you're a teenager. I get it. When you're a teenager, yes. But we're talking about people who are adults now, still shipping this, still saying, oh my gosh. And it's just like, stop it. There's you no excuse anymore to still look at this and think this is cute.
In their defense,
Mm-hmm.
we forgot about 99% of why we hate Pride.
That's true.
If we managed to forget what an awful person Pride was, I dare say there is some way that people might have forgotten what an awful person Ved could be. And just remember the nice parts.
I am very begrudgingly going to say you have a point. Very, very begrudgingly, I forget that not everybody is psychotic like me, who spent years continually going through the story. Okay, I'll give that one a friggin' pass. You're probably right. But just know this is reluctant, Sabine.
And you have to always remember as well, if you're talking just about series 4 Chloe, then you're there, throw them together, it's fine. Because
Lance is like, who cares?
That too.
Her old self is gone, so
Yeah.
Lance is like, she was asking for it.
Oh no!
What do we think they did to her in the mines? Is she a clone or something? We've got clone Chloe.
No, we're not going to the clone storyline.
I mean, this is not Chloe, is it? It's like blink 3 times if you're being held against your will,
We don't want to know what they experimented on with Chloe.
Well, whatever they did, it's completely changed her personality. Old Chloe would not have put up with this. Old Chloe would not have given him the time of day.
No, but old Chloe hadn't lost Patsy and Casey yet, and everyone else she knew and loved ripped away from her. She's holding on to this one boy who gave her attention and what she interpreted as love.
No, I mean, I get it. I'm uninvested just looking at it. I understand. I totally, I don't even care. Fine. I don't know how I'm the audience supposed to root for this when his reaction is so cruel. And I don't know. I think they could have used this opportunity to actually, if you want us to believe that he does care about Chloe, you could have used that opportunity to add a bit of dimension to his actual reaction to finding out she's not pregnant and maybe regretting how he spoke to her because he was afraid when she first told him. I reacted like a jerk because it scared me, and now it turns out she's not pregnant, and now I don't have her. in the same way that Chloe shows regret for having told him, because she doesn't deny what he did to her was mean and cruel,
Mm-hmm.
but the way she sees it is, if I hadn't told him, I'd still have him, because that's all I care about. I just want to have him. It doesn't matter. And they could have done something similar with Ved, where like, yeah, he acted like a jerk to her when she told him, and then finding out that she's not pregnant, there could have been some regret there. Like, oh, I already acted like a jerk. I already ruined it. I already dumped her, and I dumped her for nothing. Now I don't have her. Like, they could have done something. Instead, they decided to double down on him being a total a-hole. And I'm not really sure what they were going for. Because if you're trying to get your young audience to root for them, because even Lex had more dimensions in this when he was treating
Mm-hmm.
Zandra like he was treating her terribly. He still had nuance to how he did it, like.
Yeah.
And with Ved, I'm like, I don't know what you're going for here, because why would an audience really root for this if this is how he reacts after finding out she's not pregnant, and he threw the relationship away for nothing, and instead he's just laughing at her to her friend who's likely going to go back and tell Chloe that's how he reacted.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a weird choice. That's all. It's just a weird choice, not for so much the character, but for the people writing the character.
The whole Ved instantly going, oh well, it wouldn't even be mine. Like, he knows Chloe. He knows this was all new to her, and then to suddenly accuse her of sleeping around. Mm-mm.
I mean, it has been like 2 days.
Yeah.
The timeline is very weird.
Like, I'm not sure if is Ved supposed to be a cautionary tale?
Well,
because if he's supposed to be that, then his behavior makes sense. Because we're not
Mhm.
supposed to root for him. It's supposed to be a lesson towards young people that this kind of relationship isn't healthy. It's not good for you. Da 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 da. And then like Lex was a cautionary tale for Zandra. Like, girls, be careful with guys like this. They're not good for you. They won't make you on and on. Like, he was a cautionary tale. Is that what Ved's supposed to be? Like, what are we going for here?
can I add to that and say that there's shades of Alice and Ned here?
You mean it's just as confused and doesn't
Just
know
as
what the point is?
Yeah, exactly. But you've also got, it's the mockery. The way that Ned, in the early stages of their relationship, would kind of mock Alice. And but we weren't supposed to root for them. Or were we supposed to root for them? Like you say, it's so confusing because this is not a relationship. This is a toxic little boy who is with a young girl who, because of her age, doesn't know to expect more and to want more. And that's what this relationship is. It's not a relationship. It's just he is awful and she's a child.
Yeah, that's it. nothing left to work with.
I just have to say, I did like how, Trudy pointed out to her that at least, yes, you told him, and now you know what he's like,
Yeah.
that he's not going to be there for you. And I was actually glad someone made that point. And Chloe being mad at Trudy for this, totally understandable because of her age.
Yeah.
And because of her severe lack of experience.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, she thought she was pregnant, but I'm just sitting here thinking, yeah, well, I mean, Ved laughs about it, but all I can think is, who actually taught this girl what was happening, what was going on, how these things work, other than Trudy showed up pregnant at a similar age to what Chloe is now, and then suddenly there was a baby.
Nobody taught her anything. That's what's sad. She
Yeah.
clearly was, when was she supposed to get this education? From The Chosen? Like, when was she supposed to get it? So it's, yeah, she has no idea how this stuff works. And I mean, it's not like they have a discussion about why she thinks she's pregnant. Again, they didn't even have a discussion about why she was nervous about being with Ved. Like, what was it she was concerned about? She never discusses any of that. We don't know how much Chloe actually knows about any of this. It makes sense that she knows basically nothing about any of this. Yeah, they didn't talk about this stuff.
Like, there was nobody there to educate this girl on these things. Because before Trudy and Amber came back, there was Selene. And Selene still saw Chloe as a child, or at least as a babysitter.
I'd also add that I liked the relationship that's been developed between Dee and Chloe. I mean, it's not much, but it is something. They're a similar age. I like the fact that Dee went off and to the hotel and basically called Ved out, even though every interaction she's had with Ved has been negative to the point where he held a zapper to her, but still she's going to call him out on this. And it was just nice because you don't get those moments of female friendship that often in this series, and it was nice to see.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
She was just like, you little sack of gosa. Yeah, I don't have much to say about, what Trudy, how Trudy handled. She's obviously handles it great. There's nothing else to say to that. She's probably the only one who could have handled this great. And I like the interaction between Chloe and Dee. Dee, who's just angry on behalf of her friend and is like, oh, I'm going to have something to say to him. I wish they had continued the scene a little longer after Ved just starts laughing.
Mm.
Like, it just cuts and that's it. That's what we're left with. The impression of him laughing at Chloe. There's no sense of relief. There's no sense of regret. There's nothing. Just, ha ha, she's so stupid. And that's what we're left with. That's the impression of him. And I'm like, why is that where you left that when you could have done something with that? Because you're clearly interested in exploring Ved as a person. You're giving us a lot to work with. But this leaves a really bad taste in my mouth. Like, all the goodwill Ved has earned is immediately lost for me.
Yeah.
In these 2 episodes. It's not just that he rejects Chloe being pregnant. I can understand that. I can even empathize with that. But it's the way he has to do both of them that just makes me go straight back to hating him with the fire of 1,000 suns. You just wasted 20-something episodes where I was starting to like this guy. You just flushed it down the toilet.
I'd also say, by not seeing the end of that scene as well, it kind of felt like, so what was Dee's response? Did she just leave? Like, what is the response to that?
Slap him across the face.
We would have liked to have seen it.
Yeah. That would have been great. If anyone needs a punch to the face, it's that one. Because Ved smacks is someone who's never been punched.
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
he wouldn't know what to do. I think he'd burst into tears. I mean, I'd burst into tears if somebody slapped me. But Ved deserves it.
Do you know who I'm missing right now? Ryan.
Yeah. Oh God, Ryan would go full dad mode with Chloe. Oh my God, and it would be really awkward because Chloe wouldn't want him to know. Like, she doesn't want anyone to know, but especially not Ryan. Okay.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if someone went to Ryan with a look, this happened, this is what's going on with Chloe? We would have seen a similar situation as we saw with the Guardian, but the Fed would have actually flown across the building.
Once again, I'm just glad that Ryan doesn't have to live through these times.
He's off doing a better thing.
That's all I can say. He's in a better place. I'm so happy that my precious Ryan doesn't have to be a part of any of this nonsense. That's all I'll say. Like, thank God. Wherever you are, I hope you are so happy, Ryan, dealing with this crap.
I really wish those 2 would just get it together, though, It'd be so good for her.
Oh, come on. You know you've always had a thing for the great hunter, primal passions and all that.
Yeah, right. Like, Pride will always be special to me. But, my heart belongs to Bray. He's the father of my child, and nothing will ever change that.
Which leads Trudy to then resolving to push him towards Selene by giving him Amber's blessing. Later, Pride tries to talk to Selene, but they end up fighting over how to handle Chloe. He does end up apologising to her, telling Selene how he feels about her, and they reconcile. So yeah, what do you make of Trudy's continued adventures in relationship counselling, and obviously Pride now moving on from Amber and committing to Selene?
So before Liz and Sabine really let go on this, I just wanted to say something quickly, which is, I really like this version of Trudy that they do with this level-headed, like you say, relationship counselor, because we had this at the end of season 1. She's the one that leaves the message for Bray so that he can find them, because she knows that Amber's still in love with him, and she also knows that there's no way that Bray wouldn't come and find them. And we see snatches of this version of Trudy throughout the series, and that's the version that gets forgotten about, which is really frustrating, because this is a really great version of Trudy, and it's not like it's come out of nowhere. We have seen her like this before, and she's also the sort of person that cares deeply for her friends, thinks about their wants and their needs, and will push them towards something she thinks is right for them or necessarily not. Like leaving the message for Bray. That was a dangerous move, but she did it because she felt like they should at least get a chance to talk it out. Like, hear him out. He needs to know where we are. And yeah, I just really love this version of Trudy, and I'm glad we're seeing a bit more of it in this series. I'm sad, like we have said a couple of times, that Trudy doesn't have her own storyline, that she's connected at the hip to Amber, and that is a shame. But when we get to see her like this, it's really nice. Anyway, you two go off now. Go, Queens, go.
I agree with you there, Tamsin. I'm very happy with this version of Trudy. Just at the start of their conversation alone, just the fact that she's not telling Amber what's going on with Chloe, not breaking that trust. Very happy with that a little bit. And well, the way she manages to take this little bit of information from Amber and use it to steer Pride in what seems to be the better direction for him right now, which would make SALENE happy, and ultimately, she knows Pride is seeking that approval, and the fact that Amber seems totally uninterested in it is just that little point for her to just go tell Pride with, look, Amber's fine with it. Go be with SALENE. Be happy with SALENE. That's what she wants you to do. And just the little smile on Trudy's face when she manages this and Pride instantly runs off to do what was suggested to him. Yeah, I like that version. The fact that Pride instantly goes for it and goes, oh, okay, Amber feels that this is what I should do and I shouldn't be waiting for her. Okay, then. That's... yeah.
Ha! I'm sorry. Could someone explain to me what was going through Pride's head? I'd like to know why he needed Amber's permission. Is this man still holding his torch so hard that it's not till he hears that Amber's telling him to hook up with another person? She's already done this, Pride. She literally pushed you toward May. You know she don't want you. You know she'd rather see you with anybody but her, except maybe Ebony. That's probably the only one. So please explain to me why, story-wise, he needed this permission, this blessing from Amber to get his head out of his arse and then suddenly remember SALENE exists and stop insulting her to her face. And even then, he still kind of messes up and still insults her to her face and realizes, oh, I'm going to be going to bed alone. I better fix this. Please, somebody explain to me what's going through this jerk's head. I'm supposed to be happy that now, only after Amber, he's like, Amber wants me to go with SALENE? That he runs to SALENE, insults her motherhood, then goes, sorry about that. I'm really into you. Like, are you going to explain how you've been treating her for days? Is there going to be an explanation of what's going on? No, you're going to lie to her face and act like you don't have feelings for Amber. He literally lies to SALENE's face. This is a moment to actually... let's purge Pride of his complicated feelings when SALENE goes, I thought you and Amber. And he could, instead of being honest and being like, you know what, that one's hard. That one's a difficult one, blah, blah, blah. Let's be honest. Let's start this relationship on a good foot. No, he lies to her face and says, oh, now, Amber, what gave you that idea? I've only been holding her up on a pedestal in front of your face and parading her through the mall for the last week. Please, somebody explain to me what they were thinking. when they wrote these scenes and thought this is going to make me root for this guy to do anything other than be shot in the face.
I think they were thinking the same thing that they were thinking with Ved laughing at Chloe, which is they weren't. They weren't thinking about the implications. They weren't thinking about how this makes Pride look. They weren't thinking about how the footing that this will put Pride and SALENE on. Now, the other thing is they weren't thinking about when Trudy said, haven't you always had a thing for Pride to Amber? Like, no!
Mm-hmm.
Or has she? Unsure! They weren't thinking about anything!
They need to clear the air for the audience just to make sure everyone's on the same page. No, she's never liked him. What the...
See, but I think that might be an interesting one, though, because Trudy, as one of the few people who spent some time alone with Pride without Amber, like, they had that whole trek to the eco camp, you know, when she was just first rescued. They had that whole trek to the eco camp to talk about things. Trudy definitely didn't want to talk about all the chosen stuff, so Amber was left for discussion. Like, with the way Pride speaks of her, I can imagine that Trudy drew her own conclusions to, okay, there might have been something going on there once upon a time, probably at the same level that there was something going on between her and Bray once upon a time. But she just needed to be sure that Amber really didn't want Pride. You know, she needed to be certain that with Bray gone, this wasn't what Amber had in mind as a fallback option. And I think that might have been part of it for Pride as well, you know, with him holding on to Amber. I think he hoped to be that fallback option with Bray out of the way.
Do you think it might have been, as much as I liked Trudy being the one to have that conversation with Pride, do you think in reality Amber needed to sit him down and have this conversation with him?
Mm-hmm. Yep. But he doesn't hear anything that Amber tells him. You know, all he hears is rainbows and unicorns.
Oh God, he's so problematic. Oh God, he's such a problematic character. Like, SALENE doesn't deserve this. I know that the fandom hates SALENE, but not this much.
I couldn't get over the fact that, again, I can forgive it if he's just had complicated feelings for Amber. That's fine. That's fine. Okay, but let's be honest about that. When we get to the point where you realize, holy crap, I've been loving a ghost. Like, I've loved something that doesn't exist. And the thing that I could have is literally right in front of me, and I've been ignoring it because I'm chasing a ghost. Like, this could be a poignant epiphany for Pride. And he and SALENE could have a beautiful moment that starts him off on the right foot. But instead, no. We don't get any real insight into what changes Pride's mind. We can only assume it's because he got Amber's freaking permission to move on. Again, she already gave you permission to move on back in season 3, but whatever. And then...
Yeah, but Bray was still in the picture back then.
It doesn't matter. My point is, they wasted the opportunity to make this moment beautiful. And instead, it makes him despicable because he literally lies to SALENE and pretends that none of the way he's been treating her has anything to do with Amber. He basically tells her, he gaslights her.
Yeah.
When we could actually have him come out and they could have a conversation about it, you know? But no, he's just like, Amber, she's just a friend. That's the only way I like her. Then please explain to SALENE why you've been treating her this way for days since you got Amber back. If you don't have any feelings for Amber, then what was triggering your treatment of SALENE? If it had nothing to do with Amber? Because I don't think anybody else in the building believes that it had nothing to do with Amber.
It's kind of worse than that because it's like his treatment of SALENE was way before Amber came back into the picture. He just treated her as a booty call. Basically, he just wanted to like, that's the level he wanted to be with her at. So even if he had said all the Amber things, it still would have been like not good in my eyes. But it's just icky, Pride, icky.
So icky. Like, you're the scum of the earth. Like, how in an episode where Ved is literally laughing at the girl he's supposed to like for thinking she was pregnant and he's already dumped her, how do you still look worse than him?
It's a skill.
Seriously,
Pride has skills.
we got Ram over here playing gladiatorial games with people's lives, and you still look worse, Pride. Come on. Because at least the other two don't try to pretend to be anything other than
Yeah.
douchebags.
Yeah.
But you are trying to pretend to be a decent person.
Yeah. He's a nice guy. Don't you know? He's such a nice guy.
Such a nice guy.
He would definitely insist on paying for dinner and drinks all night, even though you're like, no, I can pay. And they make a big fuss about, no, I'll pay. And then, oh, can I come in? No! It was a 20 quid dinner. You're not coming in. I didn't. That is pride.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, instead of feeling good, I felt so sad
Yeah.
for her in this moment. Like, girl, you deserve so much better than this.
Because she'd had so much growth as well. You know, there'd been growth to Selene, and now it's all gonna.
Treating her like a last resort. Oh,
Yeah. And it's, oh my God. And I don't think there's anyone out there, maybe there are people out there, that could see this as a good, like, we spoke about Chloe and Ved, Pride and Selene. Who is thinking this is a good relationship?
I guess the same people who forgot.
Yeah, same people who
according
forgot.
to Celine,
Yeah.
Sabine, like, it's same people who forgot, like, think this is beautiful.
I mean, you've also got to think maybe there are people out there who've never watched the show and just exist in the fan fiction. Yeah, like they've watched season 1 or whatever, and they've got the fan fiction versions of these characters because they do exist. And the fan fiction version of Pride is much more interesting than the real one.
Mm-hmm.
Chloe and Ved, better, well-written couple than they actually were. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, I know people who did great jobs on writing Chloe and Ved.
I hate this. I hate this with every fiber of my being. It hurts my soul. I wish she knew her worth, and wasn't so eager to be like, oh my gosh, you don't want Amber, you want me? Like, oh sweetie, oh my gosh, sweetheart.
He's just not that into you.
He is not some kind of prize. You haven't won anything. Baby girl, run. That's all I want her to do. I just want her to run. And ugh.
There's no positives here. That's no good.
No, none.
That leads us to our final thoughts of the episode. So, as an excited city watches on, Lex struggles to win against his opponent, Maximus, only to discover that the real fight is about to begin against Java. After initially doing well, Lex loses the upper hand after being tricked by a vision of Siva and loses the fight. The city then votes on Lex's fate, with the Morats pushing the vote to a tie as Ram casts a decided vote to let Lex live. See a panel, a few things within this, but let's first start off with the fight. What do you make of the fight scenes and the parallels with ancient Rome as Ram uses entertainment to control the population?
I was going to say it was the only real good thing about this episode. I can see why Costa, it was his favorite thing to film. I can understand that now, like, because this was actually very interesting to watch. I think the build-up, I think the score, there was a really nice sense of tension. Cinematography was great. I also really like the fact that Lex is genuinely battling for his life because he's been told if anything happens to you it will affect you out here.
Mm-hmm.
You will be dead. So he is fighting for his life. He's not fighting for glory. He's not fighting to prove a point. He's trying not to die. I think that that really stands out and makes I think again they did a good job building the tension. The music is really good. The intercutting between people watching and the different people watching, the wide shots of the fight from Lex's point of view, the heartbeat sounds. You know what I mean? Like you just feel like you're in Lex's shoes. I think they did a very good job with this scene.
Yeah, I agree. And I would also say the parallels with ancient Rome. I mean, it feels very realistic that someone like Ram would consider himself to be an emperor and would see himself as a Caesar type character. It fits. It's almost kind of Hunger Games parallels where it makes sense as to why they have so many ancient Roman names and allusions to characters from mythology, like Greek mythology, Roman mythology.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense, and this makes sense as well. And it's all bread and circuses, isn't it, for Ram?
Can you imagine the impact it would have had if instead of doing this virtually, they would have actually tried to have this fight with Lex, in an actual arena?
I guess the thing is, though, he can't. Ram wants to control everything, and he wouldn't be able to control that.
Yeah.
Even down to the weather. It might rain, so people might not turn up. Whereas in this environment, he can control everything, even to the bit where, I think that was real when it was Siva. Like Java had programmed it so that would happen. But maybe Lex was hallucinating, I'm not sure. But even down to something like that, so that Java definitely did win, he wants to be able to control it all.
It's the only thing I had a question about was, and what you guys might think. I'm curious now, is Lex the only one who saw the image of Siva? Because like it's not clear to us who saw, was it just him? Is he the only one who saw Siva and was thrown for a loop at seeing her and that's what distracted him? Or did everybody who was watching the fight see that image of Siva? And whose idea was it? Because it's if it was Ram's idea, then that suggests that Ram knows what's going on between the two of them. But again, later we'll get confirmation that he had no clue. And so it couldn't have been Ram who knew. Is this something Java did to cheat?
Possibly.
And again, why? Why was that necessary for her to do?
Maybe because she didn't think there was a chance she might not win, and this was her backup. But I think it's not clear, like you say. So there's this, as I said in the beginning, there's that scene where between Siva and Lex, and Ram notices the interactions between them. They do a close up on his face, clocking their interactions. But like you say, if that's the case, then how is the later stuff the case? But I'd say with Ram, he's an unreliable narrator. What he tells you is not necessarily true. So he may say that he didn't know about this, but that's actually not true.
I think he absolutely knew about it.
I think he's suspicious.
At least to a certain degree.
As for the Siva thing, I think it was just Lex, and I think Java programmed it in as a failsafe in case. But who knows? Because it's not clear. It's pretty random, though.
I mean, either way is cool.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty cool. I mean, if she does, Java has good motivation for wanting Lex completely out of the picture. And she does have a cruel streak. And she already knows that if he loses a fight, she probably already knows the details, such as if he loses the fight, that Ram's doing the whole letting everyone vote. But yeah, it's just interesting, like who was the one who was responsible for putting, Siva's image in there. But yeah, I do think Lex had to be the only one who could see it.
Because if he isn't, then actually, what is that? What is going on?
I do want to say it was a Ram thing because I'm not sure, obviously, I don't think Java can program, and Ved and Ram definitely wouldn't let her tamper with that program. So I think it must have come from Ram.
But did we get a reaction from Siva from seeing that? Because you'd be like, he knows.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement that Lex is the only one who can see it. But the question is, who put it there? If it's Ram, why? And how much does he know about Lex and Siva? And again, why does the show contradict what he knows and what he doesn't know? Maybe you're right, Tamsin. Maybe he does suspect and knows something, and his fit at the end is simply the fact that he didn't scare her out of it. He didn't scare her enough to stop her from still pursuing this guy. He wasn't able, he didn't win, and that's what the tantrum's really about. It's not that he just found out, but he's just pissed that I tortured you, I tortured him, and none of that was enough for you to quit this little love affair with him. Maybe that's what it was about. Who knows? So maybe Ram is the one who, we know he was never going to play fair. They cheat later on too to bring Lex off of his high cloud of being the people's champion. you know, so maybe it was him. You know, I don't know.
Maybe that's what that shot of Ram's expression was when he was looking at that. Maybe that was meant to be the clue to the audience that he put that in. It's not that clear, but maybe that's what it was.
Honestly, I think the only option to have put it in there is Ram, because Java is not someone who programs, and Java is also not someone who would risk handing Ved that knowledge about her sister and Lex.
It's
Do
true
we
too.
think that Ved doesn't know?
I don't know.
Ved seems so uninterested.
Talking about Ved today.
He seems uninterested enough not to have noticed.
Yeah.
And I liked the choreography. It was like nice to see some good
Yeah.
fight choreography in this episode, and even actual weaponry in the fight. Now, granted, there's no blood, and I'm totally forgiving of that. This is virtual reality, you know. But I liked that they're fighting with real weapons. Lex had to slay someone. He had to take a life, and you don't know if that was just a program or if that's some other kid hooked up to these machines. You know, we know that at the moment, Lex has whatever the thing is that would make him die in real life, and Java doesn't. I did like that, where Ved reassures Siva. I thought that was actually kind of funny, because she was like, you can't do that. He's like, oh, don't worry, Java will be safe. She doesn't have the inhibitor, or whatever he called it. And I was like, oh, how sweet of you to reassure her that her sister's safe. Um, so yeah, I liked the choreography. I really liked the score, and I thought they did a good job, like building tension. So
This
it's like
is another great
can
look
do
for
it.
Java
They just
as well.
don't do it. She looks fantastic.
I love her. This is so in this episode, as we discussed before we went on air. I loved the fact that we got a couple of different looks for Java in this. We had that little top she was wearing when she had the towel around her neck, which looked really nice. Would like to see more of that. And we also got this leather look in cream, which looked flipping fabulous with a different tribal design. She looked great. She was killing it this episode. The hair, the fashion, love it.
Oh, and I really liked when they're the mall rats they're watching. I thought the reaction shots were done really well, and I like how after he beats his first opponent, Chloe goes, "They can't make him fight again, can they?" And just Amber's simple, "Yes, they can. They absolutely can make him fight again." I thought that there was something very sobering about the way she said that. That even if Lex wins, he's still just a pawn in this game. There's no real winning this game.
And the very last second, you know, with Mouse wanting to vote thumbs down.
Yeah. Because she doesn't grasp that it's not a game. Whereas Amber knows that will mean something serious for Lex. She doesn't know what it will mean, but she knows it's not good.
Yeah.
Heck, you could argue that it's a nice parallel to our carelessness with things that don't seem real to us. I mean, the way people behave online, even today, you know, the comments they're willing to write about somebody because they forget that's an actual person that you're writing it about. You know, they feel the separation between them and the screen. And for Mouse, granted, Mouse is just a child, but how many other people think like Mouse who aren't just children, who just do not recognize this is a real person? You know him, you've seen him in the streets. But the carelessness of voting whether he lives or dies without actually considering what that might mean, there's no thought put into it. Probably because they don't, well, you know, partly because they have no knowledge about how these games work. But two, the separation of it all. They don't have to think about how this might affect the actual Sheriff Lex that they know and have spoken to and have seen in the streets. Right now, he's just on a screen. And so they can carelessly vote thumbs up or thumbs down. I really liked that.
But yeah, I mean, team, that means we are like on the second half of season 4. How are you feeling?
Yeah. Feeling good. I always feel good because I enjoy to have chats with you guys about this. So yeah.
But for this specific season, 26 down, 26 to go.
You make it sound like a threat.
You three, though, you've been living in the trenches of this for so long. I mean, 5 years.
5
You're
years.
superstars, you know?
This is the only time it's felt like a real chore, though. Like all of the other seasons, yeah, the back end of
Yeah.
season 3 is rough, no doubt
Yeah.
about it. But first half of it's pretty good. So it didn't feel like the whole season was a slog.
No.
But this one's been rough going the whole time for me personally.
I think when we were at the back end of season 3 and we could not wait for season 4.
Well, look, I'm actually going to say I still hate the back end of season 3. I prefer this.
Mhm.
I actually prefer these episodes to series 3. The end of it.
Mm-hmm.
That felt like a real slog to me. This doesn't. Especially since in season 3, none of this ends up meaning or mattering at all. It's all going to get swept off the board. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it just hurts more in season 3. Like this is grueling, but season 3 started off so strong and just like what the frick is happening? It's different forms of pain. I guess that's it. It's just different forms of pain.
I also think it's the over-ambitiousness of 52 episodes a season. I think if they had had 25, the stories would have been more coherent and you wouldn't have had the bagginess. But because it's 52, which is just like now, you wouldn't even get an entire series that maybe is 52 episodes. If you think about the most recent Doctor Who, that was 7, 8 episodes. And I think that's the problem with this. Maybe there are too many episodes, so you've got so much filler and you've got to fill the time and it takes you on tangents. And that's definitely what happened in season 3. You had the first half, like you all say, that was really good and interesting. Then they got rid of the Chosen, and then the rest of it was just events that took place in the mall or outside the mall.
Yeah, but I'm not sure it's just the amount of episodes, over here they aired for quite a while as 2 episodes as one.
Uh-huh.
So we had 26. And they were, double length of one episode, but compared to the length of shows nowadays, that's about the same amount of time per season. It's just for the tribe, it's usually cut up into 52 episodes instead of those 26 longer ones.
I don't know. Season 3 may have been, the last half of season 3 may have been a slog, but I was still around people I liked, I didn't hate them all. I didn't cry every time we were there. I still enjoyed myself. I still had hope and things like that. I don't really have any of that here.
Yeah, but the horrible things we saw.
I see too much wasted potential because season 4 keeps giving me really good stuff. And then, why did you get my hopes up? It's not like I'm not trying to find good stuff. I think for me, it's mostly the stutter, the start and stop. The start something kind of good, okay, you got my attention, then leave me hanging with nothing. We gave you something good, and we're immediately going to take it away from you. We're not going to do anything with it. So we got you invested, and then we kicked you in the teeth for being invested. That's a big problem for me. Because, again, there's good stuff. I'm interested. I'm listening. And then you make me feel like a fool for having cared about that good stuff. For being interested in it. For wanting to know more. I think that's my biggest issue. That makes me not want to see the next episode. Because why should I? You're not going to do anything good with the interesting stuff you showed me.
On that note, that brings Series 4, Episode 26 to a close. Thank you very much to the panel, and you can show your support by clicking on that like and subscribe and following us on all the major platforms. You can also leave us a comment or get in touch if you'd like to take part in a future episode of the podcast yourself. Just search for thetribe.co.uk or Conversations on Eagle Mountain. You can also throw us a donation. Just head on over to buymeacoffee.com/thetribe.co.uk. And we'll see you next time for episode 27. Until then, bye.
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 Bye.